Good morning, virtuals. We are getting ready to write our personal narrative again. Wherever you keep your stuff, go find this packet. You should have with your work this week have a page titled Middle. Last week I made a mistake and did not include it, but I did upload a PDF for those of you who are kind of stuck. This is the first page of the middle section. And then you have 2 pages that are blank we're getting ready to fill in. That's what you're looking for in your virtual packet. These are the parts we've already done. If you're suddenly realizing you have not done this, you need to go all the way back, far, far back in the virtual learning folders and catch up. We have a planning sheet. We have a beginning, middle, and end with pictures and facts we're going to write about. We have the introduction we wrote with the super impressive hook to make all of our readers want to read our story. This was a picture of our setting that we drew last week to help you with the details. And then we wrote the beginning paragraph of our body. We are now working on the middle of our paper, and we're going to be filling in these 2 blank pages, depending on how long your story is and how large you write. All right, we are writing a personal narrative. Personal means it's about me, and narrative means it's a story. Yes, sir? What if we need more than 2 pages? Then we've got lots of notebook paper in our desk or our basket, or I have notebook paper. So now what we are writing is just the middle. We're writing just the middle of what is on your planning sheet. So each one of you should have a planning sheet. I'll show it to you up here. In case you don't know what I'm talking about. You have a sheet that looks like this, where we wrote what happened in the beginning, and we talked about our setting. We drew a picture of the 3 things or 4, whatever that happened in the middle, and we wrote those. So the example of learning to ride a bike. In the beginning, I hit the mailbox, I crashed, I decided I wanted to ride a bike by myself. In the middle, I walked through the steps of learning how to ride the bike. Dad took me to my driveway and he held on the back of the bike and we went round and round and round. I tried it by myself and fell down again. On Tuesday, Dad and I went to the church parking lot and he held the back of the bike and we went round and round and round again. I tried it by myself and I still fell down. On Friday, we went to the park and he pushed me around and around and around on the back of the bike. And this time when he let go, I actually rode for a few feet before I fell down. I'm talking about the steps it took me to learn to ride the bike. Now, we are not writing the end today. You're not going to tell me how you're the best, most amazing bike rider now. That's next time. We're only telling this middle part. Now, one thing I did notice from the first class was that the boys and girls didn't really understand that this was something we were doing all together. The paragraph that we wrote for the intro is going to get glued to the paragraph that we wrote about the setting. If we glued them all together, we could just read them right straight down. So we don't need to say what we said last week again. You don't need to tell me what the goal is again. You already did that. Yes, sir. Not technically, but imagination. We are, and I'm glad that you knew that, but not everybody, I don't think, realized that. Every time we sit down to write a new part, they want to write the same thing they already wrote over again. So we're only writing the middle today. In the middle, we're going to include dialogue. Now, in the last class, nobody could tell me what dialogue was. Does anybody here remember what dialogue is? No, but that's a good guess. That's the prologue at the begin, and there's at the end, and then there's a preface at the beginning.
Is dialogue like kind of like what it's about?
No, that's a good guess also. Dialogue is talking. In a book, quotation marks, he said, she said, mom said, they said, that's dialogue. The word is spelled like this, D-I-A-L-O-G UE. Dialogue is just people talking. When you have a conversation at lunch, you're having a dialogue. In a book, they write it down a particular way with quotation marks and commas and all those things we've been practicing. Your story is going to include people talking. But we're not just going to put a bunch of people talking just because I said so. It's going to have a purpose. So we're going to take a look at what that purpose is right now. Now, in Angel's story about the library reading challenge, she included this part as her middle. Remember that the children's librarian came and told her about the challenge. She showed her the prize chart, so she drew this picture of a prize chart to remind her. She decided to get a piece of coupon and a book if she won. She helped her pick out the book Wonder, and this is a picture of the book Wonder. It took her forever to finish the book, and she read 6 more books, and so she drew a picture of her reading a book. Now, this is her goal. Yours is different. Some of you have written about back handsprings. Some of you have written about video games. Some people have written about animals or riding a bike, riding a skateboard, all kinds of things. Your middle is all the steps that you went through to meet your goal. We are not writing our ending. I don't want anybody's paper to say, yeehaw, now I can do it. That's for next week. It's just writing the middle. Now, we're going to take a look at her paragraph here for just a minute. This is her middle. And if you notice, it's a lot longer than her beginning, and it's a lot longer than her introduction. Now, I did make some of it yellow. This is the dialogue. This is the talking. She's actually telling part of the story in dialogue. There's no yellow down here, so she didn't use dialogue in the whole thing, just in part of it. So at the beginning, the librarian's telling her what she has to do for the challenge. And so she included that part as dialogue. At the bottom, she just tells it like a story. There's no one talking down here. So I want you to include dialogue. If you're learning how to do back handsprings, you're probably at the gym, there's a coach there, there's other teammates there, your friends are there. Those are people that can be talking. If you're at a baseball game, soccer game, basketball game, same thing, coaches, teammates. One little guy was writing about playing a video game, so his mom's talking to him in his story. Or you're on your headset and maybe your dialogue is what you're saying back and forth with your friends. Make sure it's something I want to hear because I know what you people say. If you notice, when there's dialogue, we've learned about the quotation marks and the commas and the punctuation in our daily review. But one thing we haven't talked about is that when you write with dialogue, each person gets their own paragraph. That's why you've got these big indentation marks here. The librarian's talking here, new paragraph, Angel talks. New paragraph, librarian talks again. New paragraph, Angel, librarian.
Why do they have to get the new paragraph?
Those are just the rules. That way you can easily see who is talking. Now it looks kind of funny when they're just saying super short sentences because it just looks like words scooched over. But if they're having a long dialogue or they're saying more than one or two things, it looks a bit more like a paragraph. But that's just the rules. Each person that's talking gets their own paragraph. And you just go back and forth until you're done with the dialogue. You're going to take your middle and you are going to turn it into sentences like these. Yes, sir.
We could put like if mom was talking, we could put mom said in that paragraph.
And that's exactly what you're going to do. So this guy was talking about getting a game and he was going to Walmart. Mom said, let's go. I said, yippee, it's time to go get my game. You know, that kind of dialogue. It's going to make your story more interesting and it's going to tell part of your story. She didn't include a bunch of meaningless conversation. this is actually telling part of her story. It tells what the prizes are. It tells what the rules are. So she actually is telling part of her story here. It's not just adding dialogue because I said so. It's using it as part of the story. Now, what you're going to get from me is basically a blank page. The first page has the rules for writing dialogue in case you need to refer back to it. If you don't remember where to put the commas and the quotation marks, this is what's going to show it to you. And then you're going to get 2 pages of this blank. Okay? And it depends on how much you have to say if you use both of them or not, or how big you write. You have to include describing language. I want it to be interesting. Describe what it looks like, what it sounds like, what you're doing. I want to be able to understand it. The guy that was writing about the video game, I was like, you're going to need to tell me about that game because I don't know anything about it. So you need to write to a reader as if they don't know what you're talking about. So if you're writing gymnastics, I don't know what all the words mean. You're going to need to describe what those things are. If you're writing dirt bikes, I don't know what all those words mean either. You're going to need to explain those things. Remember that your writing is going to be combined. So, can I borrow yours for a second? What you need to remember is that whatever you wrote as your introduction, that's the beginning of your paper. And right after your reader reads the introduction, they're going to go straight into reading your beginning. After the beginning, they're going to go straight into what we're getting ready to write. So don't say the same thing every time. A goal I set for myself was to learn to ride my bike. And then in the next paragraph, and a goal I set for myself was learning to ride my bike. And a goal I set for myself was learning to ride my bike. You don't need to say it 3 times. We're going to put all of these together and recopy them into one whole story. So before you get started, go read what you wrote last week so you know where to start. Last week should have been your setting and all of the details from your setting. So from your setting, you can go straight into what happened. Now, does anybody have any questions before I give you your middle paper? I'm going to give it to you.